Recording in progress.
Call meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Review of the minutes from May 9th, 2022 draft meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? So moved. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any open public comment? No one's on either.
No, and Zoom's acting kind of funny, so we might get a phone call, and if we do, I'll restart it, but we don't have anybody in the room except us.
Guests?
He thinks he's coming around at 6:30 now.
Oh, does
Is
it?
that far down? Oh, 6:25, yeah, and we'll go back to it.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Lots of lists.
Yeah, I added a list on there, just things I think of, but I think a lot of good stuff happened over the weekend, right? I don't have graduation included on there. I think there's a good softball game played.
Yeah.
Things I have on the agenda is that the Rotary Club's seen the cabin.
Looks great.
Yes. I stopped up at the pool on Friday, and it looked like everybody was having an excellent time. And I know that the public works guys put a lot of work into cleaning it up. I even went up there and put an hour in too.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
so I've got some pamphlets over there on Lisa's desk, but the Proctor Gas is hosting an open house. It's going to be the first delivery of renewable propane to the state. So make sure you RSVP by June 22nd. The event's on June 29th. There's going to be lunch and beverages, and I'll be there.
So it's a daytime event.
Yeah. And she asked if she could borrow the podium, and I told her if she could come here and grab it unless anybody sees anything against that. And then Memorial Day Parade I couldn't make because I had COVID, but I saw pictures and it looked like it was a pretty good show.
It was a really good turnout. I think we had one of the biggest crowds ever. People were out in the streets on South Street, and then both bridges were packed. It was pretty impressive. It was nice, beautiful day.
Cool.
Except for a few log trucks, everything was good.
Yeah.
I only got a couple complaints.
I get that every time I ride my bike.
It was good. Yeah, and they were right when they were doing speeches and the minister was doing his prayer. The train. So it's kind of like,
Of course.
and then it stopped and then it backed up. It was fun like that.
Portable.
I know. Kept right up with it. I was like, yes. So, all right. Good job. Highway department.
So Florence Road is still closed, but repairs started today.
The repair started today. Tommy's got all the pavement is all torn up, and we're going to I think they're going to work on putting in the culvert, do some ditch work. I added some ditch work onto it from where they had the 420 rock all the way down to the lower driveway that got washed out. He's going to do the ditch work there for us and then level everything out. I don't think we're going to take much dirt out of there. We're going to use, because the gravel that's there is really good. It was some brown stuff from road sand and gravel years ago before I had to put in. And we're going to use that to fix the big washout, and Tommy's going to come in with 3.5 inch dolomite and about 12 inches of that, and then 3 inches of inch and a quarter, and then it'll be ready to pave. And then I got Wilkes. Wilkes is on board with coming in and paving it for us when they do West Creek Road in Pittsburgh. So they're going to do it all at once, and so they'll be here. We don't have to pay for setup or move trucks. They'll do it all at the same. They'll take care of Pittsburgh, and then they'll come up and do. And I think we're going to do from the bottom of the hill all the way to the top of the hill paving. I'm not quite sure of that. I think we can do all that.
Thank you.
That section was done.
Yeah, interesting, the original base looks like old marble chunks. and
Well,
stuff.
on the
So I got one
edge there, yeah, it was all marble and stuff, but that was probably the original
Yeah,
road, and then Warren redid the road, he just laid the stuff over the top of the old road, because the old road's like this thick, and it's 1.5 feet, 2 feet lower than where it is now, and that's all, seems to be all right, so we're gonna leave that and start all over again.
and then, I drove down there yesterday, it looked like the shoulder of North Street was fixed.
We started working on it, right at the moment, as you probably know, I've lost one of my crew members, he went to the left, went to GE, more money, and I understand that. And I'm down right now with 4 guys, but basically only on Monday at the moment, because 2 of them, 2 water guys, they're studying for the wastewater exam, they're doing classes for the wastewater for 2 days a week. And then, of course, it's June, they're gonna lose their time, so they're taking, one of them's taking all the Thursdays and Fridays off the rest of the month, so it's just,
So you're kind of like a solo,
yeah, I got Kyle, and we're gonna keep, plugging along, we're gonna do some more cleanup tomorrow on some of the washouts that we had, and I might try to get the guys Wednesday to, work with me and stay a little late and maybe do some paving on North Street to fix the swales. Get those swales. I'm gonna put in a berm all the way down the road, so we hopefully won't have that washout.
Right, yeah, because it'll just keep washing out.
Yeah, it needs to be built up in some of those spots. And some of that was I sent the guys out to clean out catch basins one day, and they went out and were scraping them with the tool cat, and didn't realize that they had peeled off a bunch of pavement. So that was some of our issues down there in North Street. So we're gonna do some effort.
All right, paving schedule for summer 2022. I've got cost estimates in your packet. We haven't gone out for bid yet. Before I get to this next point, I'll just say what we're planning on doing is Taylor Hill, Bluff, and Gibbs. The current FY23 general fund budget has $85,000 allocated to this, plus an expected $65,000 in aid from V-Trans, so that puts us at $150,000 for paving. Our estimated unit price for paving is $100 right now. So I haven't told John this yet, but I spoke to Wilkes and then another paving company, just because I was worried my bids would be too late, and they said it really wasn't an issue. That's where they get them usually mid-July. And they did tell me some towns are choosing not to pay this year because things are so expensive. But that's making quite the assumption, which is that it's going to go back down. So my suggestion would be we still go out for the bids, we see what we get, and we make a decision from there. So is everybody okay with the paving schedule that we have planned? Okay. Cool. TAC meeting report, I don't really have anything to add to that unless you did, Bruce. I know that the TAC decided to write a letter to the state
Regarding Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Pittsburgh likes the way the road design is now, and they want it to stay that way. And so the TAC, and the select board, they share the same opinion as the planning commission there in Pittsburgh, that, they like the way the design is. So the overwhelming majority of the TAC sent a letter to the state saying that we recommend that you follow the advice of the town, leave it the way it is. So it'll be up to them to make a decision past that. That's all I got for the TAC report.
Bid solicitation?
Yeah, bid solicitation for the Marble Bridge repairs. I'm meeting Guy Tedesco when I get back from my staycation, I'm calling. And I did look online for some historic grants just to make sure, but since it's considered maintenance, I don't think we're going to qualify for that. And then lastly, I think for highway, House Bill 736, the State Transportation Infrastructure and Programs, Governor Phil Scott has signed a record-breaking transportation bill totaling more than $868 million. Reading over the memo, it looked like a lot of this money had already been allocated to specific projects because they were using exact numbers to where, you know, they weren't naming the projects, but they were saying 26 million's going here and there. So I reached out to Butch Shaw, who I think is our rep now, right?
Yes.
And he said he wanted to meet with me anyway, so we're talking, and knowing him, I'm sure he'll want to join in and maybe explain it to everyone. So hopefully Proctor sees a little bit of that money, and that was my reason for reaching out to Butch primarily to see how that would happen. So we could continue on into the water report, but we have Wayne here. So leave it up to the chair on how to move forward.
Now we can let Wayne go, so we don't keep him on.
Wayne, can you hear us all right?
Yes, I can. Good evening.
So, yeah, I think we've invited you here because over the last few years, one of our future capital improvement projects is to, well, it was to redo the liner, but to redo the liner and then clean the sludge out of the lagoons. And I think the board and myself and John Corliss is here too, and we were just kind of hoping that maybe you could enlighten us on the process and kind of where it's at presently.
Sure. Yeah. Feel free if anybody has any questions. I guess I'll start with, I do not have very good news on sludge cleanouts. Cost of that is increased significantly over the last probably 18 to 24 months. Bunch of reasons. We've done one here last year. Community near us here is $1 million just to clean up one lagoon. And we've got another one pending that they want to do one lagoon this year and another one next year, kind of similar size. And they're looking at about $1.2 million. That's to remove the sludge, do the dewatering with a centrifuge, haul it. There's a bunch of reasons for those increasing costs. There's only really one company, Phoenix Senesac, that's currently set up to remove the sludge and dewater it. You really need to dewater it, and remove the water to get the best cake that you can, because otherwise you're just hauling water somewhere for disposal. The second piece of that is the diesel fuel prices. They've obviously significantly affected the haul cost of that dewater sludge to where it's going. And this third piece of that is there's not many places that are taking the sludge any longer. Casella's up in Coventry is currently the only location in Vermont. And they've limited on what they're taking up there. Recently it's going up to Quebec. It's going up to a company called Englobe, and they're using it for liner covers. So, just overall those costs increase significantly. And if you're just looking at sludge clean out, the state really considers that a maintenance activity. So unfortunately, the state kind of normal funding programs really don't really help to cover that. I know the ARPA can be an option. The local ARPA funds could be for that. I did some very, very rough numbers, and I want to be very careful here with all the uncertainty out there. I had some sludge depths, and I came up with roughly at least $1 million to do the dewatering, transportation, disposal, and I'm not quite sure, again, the transportation costs. If somebody's calling from Proctor up in the Quebec, that's a pretty costly piece of it. So I'll back up for a minute maybe and say that there's maybe a better way for the town to do this, to think about. So there's a lot of federal money coming through, especially for municipal public wastewater projects that's going to be out there in the next 5 years. Probably, better funding than we've ever seen in any of our careers. Unfortunately, the details of that funding is pending. Usually it would have been, issued here in the last 6 weeks. So that would be what we call our intended use plan. Similar processes to what you've been going through for the Willow Street sewer rehab improvements. That list is supposed to be on any day now, so we can kind of see, how the funding, how there's subsidy, where things lie. That could be a better option for the town moving forward. It would take a little bit of time, but if you did the lagoon liner, and maybe a few other things there in conjunction with the sludge cleanup, the benefit of that is that it doesn't include any activity. It really becomes part of the project and the liner replacement. And what that would do is qualify the town for eligibility for the state clean water program, to tap into these federal dollars. You could receive some pretty significant subsidies. So, that would help to defray or cover a good portion of the sludge removal, dewatering, disposal costs also. So, not to bear bad news, but that's a really major issue. It's getting worse. We're all dealing with PFAS and, reuse is being back significantly. There's not a great, the whole sludge thing has regressed, and, it's very concerning moving forward because it's a byproduct of every single wastewater treatment plant in the state. And we've had a lot of discussions with the state level, especially the lagoons, because those were installed many years ago because of, we had available land area, they were less expensive to operate, but, the permits do have to occur. But with all the uncertainty with the inflation where we're at right now, in the last, year and a half, the costs have really increased significantly. And I don't see that getting any better, honestly, in the short term where the diesel prices are at, inflation and everything else.
Wayne, this is Michael. How often?
Yep.
How often do localities like ours have to remove the sludge from the lagoons?
It's all over the place, Michael. Some places it depends a little bit where, first of all, whether they're doing the phosphorus removal and the chemical addition, because the chemical obviously adds the accumulation of sludge. Sometimes they can get away with not doing it as frequently in the first lagoon, sometimes up to the second, but, at least, probably a range of every 5 to 10 years, roughly.
Okay.
So Wayne, Stan had told us that we're at the end of the life of the lagoon liners anyway, so my thoughts were that we were going to be moving towards replacing them.
Yep.
Anyway. Is that the case?
Well, that's, I don't know if I have an easy answer for you. So we definitely know that there were issues. So I can tell you there's been an evolution of lagoon liners. Back 40 or 50 years ago, they didn't even use a synthetic liner. They basically used a clay bentonite, and believe it or not, there's still several aerated lagoon facilities in the state that just have a bentonite liner. And then what they did is they started going to the PVC liners. And I've got one that we're working on. They're going to be doing a lagoon liner replacement. The PVC is very, very brittle. If it gets exposed, it's almost impossible to repair. So that's not a great option either. Then after that, about the vintage of your plant, now they're going with more the geotech style, the HDPE. And I think overall, the useful life of those is much, much better. The concern there, I think in your case, which there's some repairs done a few years back, is it's where the water level, it's where the ice is, and what it does is it tends to kind of wear that liner. But the thing we don't know is below that, it may be perfectly fine, and you still may have some, significant useful life in what you have there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
But if we were going to clean them out, it would be an ideal time to think about replacing.
Yeah, and I think, you know, what would kind of make sense is to look at it both ways, to get a better handle on the numbers to see what the sludge cleanout only would look at, and then look at the liner and the sludge and see if there's anything else you wanted to do. You know, you do have some other things at the plant that are relatively aged, like the UV disinfection system. You know, and see if that's advantageous for the town, because that would get you to be able to tap into the, you know, all this new funding that's going to be available in the next few years.
Wayne, I don't want to ask any really seriously scary questions, but do you think the sun is setting on lagoon type plants one day, or do you think it'd be worth investing in what we have now?
No, I don't. You know, I'll say that there are some very specific cases around the state where they are being eliminated, but that's really a different situation. I think the majority of these we've worked on, as long as there isn't any significant change expected, you know, in the short and long term on your permit limits, it's a perfectly adequate, functional long-term approach as far as wastewater treatment. Heinsberg, and I'll give you a couple examples, recent examples. Heinsberg has had an aerated lagoon. They're in the process of replacing theirs. The issue they have is they have their phosphorus limit is going down to 0.2, and they also have a very strict low ammonia limit that's coming down. They discharge below plat, which is a very small trickle in the summer. If you look at that situation, they're going to a sequential batch reactor, but you know, that's a $12 million price tag. They don't have a choice because you can't modify the lagoon they have to really consistently comply with those new permit limits. Virgins is also looking at getting out of their lagoon. They have a different type. It's called a super primary. They've got this combined overflow issues and all those kind of things. So, you know, again, in some circumstances, yes, it warrants looking at other type of treatment options. But I say, you know, with what you have, we don't expect any changes, further changes in the phosphorus limit. Nothing else pending. Because you own the Otter Creek, so no, I would say it would be perfectly functional for the next, you know, many years.
It's good news. So I guess we just need to sit tight and wait to see this cash flow, huh? Coming from the top.
Yeah, so what we would want to do is, I don't think we submitted anything for the wastewater plant to the priority list back in January, February. I don't think we did for you guys. So we'll basically wait and see, you know, how the funding looks like here. And the next piece of this to kind of get you lined up for the funding for starting in the next fiscal year, which would be, you know, next July 1st, a year from now. You know, they're looking for priority list applications in roughly November, December. They're going to move that up this year. So that's something you've got a little bit of time on, but we can kind of kick that around if that's, you know, that's kind of an approach that you prefer to go.
Yeah, I think the ideal situation is, you know, we are aware that we can use ARPA funds, but we would like to use as match, you know, so I think that's the goal.
Yep. You can still use, you know, you can still use those ARPA funds with some of the other funding sources that are out there too. So that's something, you know, that can be looked at, you know, in the future.
Can I ask a dumb question?
Sure.
Since it's so expensive to haul and dump this, is it possible to build another lagoon to use as a temporary lagoon to like move stuff to while you repair the other lagoons, and then maybe add that to the system?
You could do that. So I'll pick an example. Heinsberg has what they call a sludge storage lagoon. Now that worked great in prior years. You know, what they would do is have somebody come in. So they would transfer the sludge to a smaller lagoon off the side. It would be separate from the treatment process. And what they would do is have somebody come in each year, remove the liquid out of that, and they would spread that on agricultural fields. Unfortunately, like I said, most of that has been ceased and stopped because of PFAS and septage and a whole bunch of issues. So that could have been a great option in the past, but I don't see that working very well in the future. The problem once you move it to there is you need to get that up thick enough so it makes sense to haul it somewhere for disposal. You know, you don't want to be hauling water, you know, a long distance. And I don't know if, you know, Rutland would take it, probably not, for dewatering. So then you've got to have somebody come in, you know, with a piece of equipment to dewater that. You could, but just the mobilization for something like that is pretty expensive. He usually wants to come in and set up for, you know, 3 or 4 weeks, not just 3 or 4 days. It's a pretty pricey operation to get set up. Does that answer your question?
Probably. Thank you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't mean to not great options. That's a real problem that the state is going to have to deal with here moving forward. It's really gotten to be a serious concern here economically for, you know, many of these municipalities, communities.
Got any idea on how many lagoon plants are in the state of Vermont?
This is going to be very rough, but I'm guessing at least probably 15 to 20, Michael.
Oh, okay.
I mean, is there any way, like, eventually the state's gonna have to address this, because it's gonna become their problem and not our problem. With all these lagoons and running out, you know, in terms of, you know, it gets to the point where they have to be repaired. Otherwise, it's a huge health issue.
Yeah.
So you think they kind of put that on the plate as far as something to look into?
Well, I think it's more going to be is how, you know, what's an affordable approach and, you know, how can we deal with the solids? You know, in the past, what's happened is, you know, these facilities were built because they were relatively easy to operate. They didn't have to take a whole lot of operator attention. You know, one thing you need to keep in mind is if you go to another type of treatment facility, Heinsberg is a similar size. You know, that's a $12 million price tag. And then beyond that, you've got the recurring operating costs. It's, you know, at least 2 full-time operators. And a lot of other, you know, increased electrical costs. So that's the reason a lot of these lagoon plants were installed, because they were, you know, didn't need full-time operator attention. They're relatively easy to operate. They're pretty low energy. And what communities have done in the past is they would put money aside each year in a capital, you know, 50,000, whatever. And then they would take those lagoons down, you know, about every 10 years, do one of them. The options out there for the sludge removal disposal were a lot easier, because you could have somebody come in with a manure pump, you could land apply, or, you know, beneficial reuse. Fortunately, a lot of those options we've regressed on sludge disposal out there, so, you know, that's something that everybody's going to have to work on here moving forward to find some reasonable options that are, you know, affordable for these communities that have to go through this process, you know, periodically.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Or?
No. And we used to live in Morgantown, West Virginia, and basically every city that's on this one river, the Mon River, dumps their sewage into the river and also gets their water from the same river. And whenever there's a big rain, all the sewer plants have an accidental overflow, and they just let everything go. So it's like other places have weird ways of doing it.
This is better.
Don't drink the water.
No, don't drink it. I like it here.
Maybe there's a big purifier at the end.
Oh, this is gay.
It's a big rain.
Wow.
All
Well,
right, well, thank you.
thanks a lot, Wayne.
Thank you.
Wish I had better news.
This isn't terrible.
Reality of the situation isn't great. We're hoping that the state, you know, we're going to see some good funding opportunities here moving forward.
So do you think the major cost is the fuel for hauling as well as the disposal, having no place to really dispose of it any longer?
It's all of the above. So, you know, when they come in, you know, to remove the sludge, you know, there's electrical, fuel costs, the equipment there is pretty costly to run. So that's increased significantly. You know, it's his mobilization, hauling that, you know, he's based out of Vermont, but he does stuff all over the country. But yes, the next piece of it is hauling that to somewhere for disposal, and then on the backs, it's all the above, unfortunately. It's all three categories that have really increased significantly.
Thank you.
We'll start a sludge hauling business or what?
Let's get into sludge hauling business.
Well, Wayne, I appreciate it, and it sounds like we got a little bit of time, but I'll definitely reach out to you as we get a little bit closer to next fiscal year. We start getting our ducks in a row.
Thank you.
Thank you, any good information?
Good, thank you. Have a good night.
Good night. Thank you.
All right, is there a motion to go into the Board of Water Commissioners?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Gorham Bridge Water Service Project.
So I sent quotes to Pat McCaughlin, Pocket Plumbing, and Bill Lawson Plumbing and Heating. Our only quote was from McLaughlin. The bids were for an hourly rate. Pat thinks that the contracted services, including materials, will be about $8,000 to divert the services from the rear of the house to the front of the house. So if there's a consensus, I'll have them sign a short form construction agreement and ask the board to award the project to Pat at our next meeting if he does prove to be a qualified bidder.
Was this his here,
Yeah, I don't think he put a name on top of it.
again? I just figured by process of elimination.
Next time, that was recycled, that bid form there, so I learned a lesson from it. I'll make sure to get a total project cost instead of just the rate.
All right.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, he's certainly a responsible contractor.
Yeah, just want to make sure he's got his insurance and stuff like that turned in before.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah,
only,
he has.
it's only 3 residences, that's.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I think there's a misspelling of his name, last name.
Oh, McLaughlin. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
All right, that's all we got.
Yeah.
Shut-off notices and agreements. The only delinquency that is active is on Newton Street where a curb stop cannot be found. Due to people on, like John just kind of touched on, a lot of crew members are on vacation right now. We got a lot of other projects happening. So the installation of a new curb stop is TBD. I actually went out to see what curb stop shut-off process is like with Nick and Rob. And, you know, it took us every bit of 2 hours. And we're capable, well, I think we're capable young men. But, you know, it's in the bush, it's right off the house, it's 5 feet deep, it's got debris in it. So, yeah, not the easiest process, but, you know, we'll learn to work with it, I guess. And then
the one on Newton Street, I got Aaron Perez from Mount Water who's going to come down and help me trace the line. We tried tracing, we traced all the way down to the end of the road where I know one of the curb stops is at 19 and all that, but I wasn't picking up the thing, so Aaron, and it's free of us because we're part of Mount Water Association, so.
And that one shut off we made on Williams, he came, you know, right in, we made an agreement. We had a new agreement form that included in your packets there. Our attorneys reviewed it. This is updated from what Celia was using. I think I haven't created any we might get to this later on in the meeting, but I don't know if we need any policy because the agreement is pretty clear that you have 1 year to pay off the delinquency, and it'll be doing 8 payments. And the reason I did that is because normally you have to make 4 payments on your current bill. So you would have, so those other 8 months you would pay back on your delinquency, so you don't have that big hit 4 times a month.
That's a good idea.
And what's nice about the new updated form is that they have to give me their mailing address and their phone number. And it's also clear when that payment is due. So at the first of the month, your payment, your delinquency payment's due. And if I have their email and their phone number, you know, it doesn't take much for me to call and say, hey, by the way. Because I'm sure it'll be it's not that many people, so it won't take too much time to do that. So, to make it clear, I'm not hunting them down for payment, I'm just reminding them of payment.
Yes, I've had pretty good luck of just talking to people that, you know, hey, here, we're here to shut you off, but, you know, you need to make arrangements, and most of the time, they come in, and it's taken care of.
Yeah. So, that's all I got for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So does the interest stop once the number's in here?
No, so your
Okay,
final
so the
payment.
number, whatever this number isn't necessarily the final number? Because interest, okay. Because it kind of reads like that.
Yeah, and I talked to them about that too when I signed it, that your final payment, most people, from what I've noticed, is they'll make an extra payment on the agreement. Their first payment, it'll be more than whatever we agreed to. So as long as it's paid off within the first year, I mean, so that'll be your final payment at the end. It might have the interest included. I've even thought about making an Excel spreadsheet so I could try to factor it, but that would totally change, because if they made a couple dollar extra payment halfway through, I'd have to redo the sheet.
No, I just meant like, so it almost reads in the first paragraph, like what you put the number in there, that's the definitive number, when the number's gonna change.
Yeah.
So that was the only thing, I think that's the.
I'll take a look at it. All right.
Okay.
Great.
Then, O&M annual updates with the boys and King. John and I met down there at the water treatment plant, the water plant.
I think we got everything pretty much, you know, we found what they were asking for. Things were there, they were just in different books, and I didn't realize it at the time. I had the full copies of all the books there, but Du Bois and King had put in their own little front paperwork, not knowing that if I then got rid of the 20 pages that they had, I had all the same stuff in there. They had put like 20 pages on the front of theirs. Stan had the original ones from Kingsbury when they did it. When I was able, okay, now I know where I'm looking for. They had the list of, what is it, the introduction. Table of contents, thank you. And their table of contents didn't match up with the one I was trying to look for. So,
yeah, they still have some calculations to do and some hunting, but we'll meet with the state here soon.
Yeah, I gotta do up a spreadsheet for their daily operations.
But the state is backlogs. I mean, we sent them our source protection plan, which was all part of this 2 months ago, and they haven't done it yet. And that's just an update. Yeah, so they're being mindful and lenient. So.
Just real quick, Michael, I think you could solve that problem Lisa was talking about on the first paragraph. If you just added in the very last sentence after ongoing user fees, something like and interest accrued on the arrearage or something like that.
Okay.
Obviously, we want to order that, so I think that would make it clear.
I usually take Lisa's advice. Just
Smart man. All right, is there a motion to go out of the Board of Water Commissioners into the Board of Sewage Commissioners?
So,
Second. All in favor?
All right.
Hey, Willow Street Sewer Pre-Construction.
Yep, we had our pre-construction meeting, notable information is that the loosening plans to start boring in late July. They're going to go under the railroad first. Also, since the project came in well below budget, Mr. Corliss suggested that we increase the scope of the project. And A&E is reviewing that proposal now. It's actually kind of perfect timing because they're asking us to get some stuff from our attorney. But before we do that, I'll explain to you what the increase in scope is. When you're going down North Street to the bottom of the hill, that's Pleasant, right, that you live on?
No.
No, I live in Meadow.
It's
Meadow. So the sewer doesn't, so the sewer does run along Meadow, but when it comes down North Street, it doesn't just run all the way down the street and intersect with Meadow. It runs down North Street and then cuts to the right and goes underneath of that trailer.
The trailer that we have the backup in.
Yeah.
That line takes everything from Terrace Hill all the way down through. And I just talked with Michael and brought it up at the meeting that they're gonna put in a manhole just down below, where there's one on Gorham Bridge Road in North Street. And then I suggested instead of running it back down through underneath the tree, let it keep going, trailer, let's run one down, right down the road, tie it into the one that's in front of Blow's house on Meadow Street. And they're looking at all that right now. I think it's gonna be a fairly easy change.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be a lot of footage either.
No, I estimated about 200 feet, and after looking at my estimate on Florence Road, I'm thinking, 200 feet is a little much, but, another story. But, it should be able to, go down, and that way there, that I can dig out, and behind the thing, cap it, put a clean out in it. The other thought is that, down the road, I can take and we can run a line from the trailer directly to the sewer on Meadow, and then get rid of because there's a manhole in the driveway on that property, which I've got to raise up so I can get into it easily. But
Do you know why it was done like that in the first place?
it's the way the town of Proctor was built. Mount Marble Company did things the way they did it.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't some type of obstruction in the way that they were gonna.
No, the way they did things, see, the road used to go in opposite, North Street is not, it was originally not there. It used to go down to the end of Gorham Bridge. And then when the flood came in 27, they washed that all and they built that road.
Yeah, and we've been checking existing infrastructure now. We've got measurements for them. They will have 2 culverts to go through it, not through, but 2 culverts.
They should be able to go underneath and without any ground. But we've got houses in this town that were literally built on top of water lines and sewer lines that went to other houses because it was Vermont Marble Company town. It was a town-owned property, town-owned building, and they did what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Nowadays that doesn't fly, but we got to deal with a lot of that.
In the 1800s.
Yeah, we do have a lot of cross-country stuff.
So we're working with A&E on that.
Trying to get into it.
I don't know if it's going to be a full-fledged change order, but once we have the change in scope, I'll let you know, and then I'll have the board make the ultimate decision once we have, all the facts and figures together.
The only other thing that they're actually maybe looking at, other than some pipe, is actually putting in another manhole on Meadow Street in front of where Judy lives there to go over to be able to stay away from the water line. Because Todd years ago had put a new 8-inch water line down through there, and we just want to kind of keep the separation and get the right pitch down through there. But
There's one right at the bottom.
Huh?
There's one right at the bottom.
Yeah, they're right at the bottom on Aggie's side of the house.
No, on the bottom of the hill, right at the stop sign.
There's a catch basin.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a sewer catch basin. They're gonna put a storm catch basin.
Yeah.
But they're gonna take and put another manhole in there, like in front of your section, in front of your house, or in front of your side. And then it's gonna go over to the one that's in front of Aggie, just down the street. Just so we can keep the separation from the water and sewer. And the other thing is, if they do put that in there, we have 5 structures left over from the Ormsby that we can use.
Are we able to use any of those on the rest of the project?
Yeah, but I never even thought about that, but that's a possibility. If we do need one, they probably could. They're there.
Thank you.
They already have inverts and stuff cut in them or no? Do they have
Yeah, a
inverts?
lot of them have the invert. So we have to see if we've got one that has the right invert, which they may, or they may not. But we'll just keep plugging forward.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. John, how old are the lines out of the plant?
The plant was done, built in 87, 88, so that's how old.
They're original.
Yeah, and Lagoon 1 had been cleaned and refurbished, not replaced. They did patch repair on things, and then they put the new when they filled it back up, they put the new the aeration system in it on both sides. The Lagoon 2 has not been done at all. That hasn't been cleaned
Since it was built?
since it was built, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
No, that's,
And I do, I do have a hole, one little hole in there at the moment that I'm trying to get down low enough so I can repair. But that storm we had 3 weeks ago, I went from almost 4 feet of freeboard to next to nothing on both lagoons in a matter of hours. So I've got it down, I'm working on getting it down now. Flows are good, as long as it doesn't rain again heavily. I can get it down, I get that repaired. And I've got the stuff to repair it. So it doesn't seem to be causing any issues, but before it does, I'm gonna get it fixed.
do you think replacing the lagoon liners is a good idea?
Yes, definitely, yeah. Yeah, we're gonna keep having problems, keep on, down, some of the issue with this one is, again, we had a turtle chew on it and chew a hole in it. But it also looks like somebody had cut the liner too, so I don't know. I have no proof of that, but that's what it looks like. But I'll repair, it's on a repair that Simon's did years ago, or like 3 years ago. That was there.
Yeah, I remember that.
I'll just, that was the first one that they did. And we found out that Flex Seal works really good at sealing. It does work. That's what we were trying to, and it sealed it up. So we got the right stuff. That, we got the glue now that they make for it. So we'll use
Drop it in
that.
there.
But we did what we had to do to get it fixed at the time. But I'll get that repaired as soon as it, I got to gradually lower it down because it was a little hot. We had high flows last month and the month before due to the rain.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Tim. All right, the status of my insurance claim.
Not a whole lot to add to this, except the claim's been finalized and we received a reimbursement of approximately $10,000 today. And that was from the damages from it was like the first snow ice storm we got.
Yeah, in November. Yeah, just the Saturday after.
Nice to have it in the rear view mirror. One of those things that popped up.
Pump station's working great. All the controls, everything's good.
Did that cover our costs?
Yeah, we have a $1,000 deductible.
All right, anything else under sewage? Is there a motion about sewage commissioners to the regular select board meeting?
So, second.
All in favor?
All right.
Managers report.
All right, I'm gonna try not to take up too much time with this, but we had 3-week break. So, zoning administrative duties. There's nothing to add except I'm handling an appeal. Notifications for the appeal have been made to abutting landowners and the Renewable report. And I think that would be July 7th. We have that hearing at 5:30. Loan administration for capital improvement projects. It's just an ongoing task. We've actually got 3 capital improvement projects going on right now. We've got Willow Street and South Street and the Beaver Pond Path. So it takes a little bit of time keeping up with reimbursements and just tracking invoices, and then doing, looking over loan agreements and stuff. The local emergency management plan approval. The local emergency management plan was approved. I also attended an emergency managers roundtable training event at the Rutland Regional Planning Commission, hosted by Stephanie Burke. The scenario was a vehicle ran into a crowd of students. Just the scenario of the training, that a car, SUV had run into a group of students on a field trip at the Rutland movie theater, which I don't, isn't open. But it was really good. There were quite a few stakeholders there from different organizations, so we kind of shared strategies and policies on how it's handled by each one. As a new emergency management director, it was really helpful for me. And then the next scenario is actually a school shooting. They set that up before. What happens is a FEMA training. So FEMA is there virtually, and there's different groups there, like Illinois State University and different towns and cities. Then you break out into your 30-minute session, and then you go back in, and everybody shares on how they handle the situation. So Stephanie and I did talk about maybe including the principal and the superintendent on the next meeting, just to hear kind of what their policies, if there are any, around school shootings. So, because it's always helpful to know what different parties are doing throughout the various events. And we just didn't talk about just what happened during the event, but actually afterwards too, like who handles the memorial and all that. So yeah, it was really good. The local hazard mitigation plan, final financial reporting and grant closeout happened. We already touched on this, but we did a good bit of pool preparation, and we have a new director. So his name is Gannon McKeeran. He has a graduate degree from Castleton University. He enjoys to run. I heard he's really good at it too. And I think he's going to be a great addition to the team. He'll start the first week of July after Lisa steps down. July 5th. Website content updates, that's always an ongoing task, but I feel like it's pretty up to speed. All right, this one's kind of confusing. I confused myself when I was making the agenda, but I ordered a mobile radar sign for North Street, because at our last select board meeting, there was talk of speeding along North Street. I think you brought it up, Bruce. So I contacted the sheriff, and they said they'd have one here in 2 to 3 weeks on North Street. And because there's like a list you got to get on. Now, I don't think I told John about this yet, but I also ordered a non-mobile radar sign on South Street and coming in. So it'll be here in 6 to 8 weeks. So John, we got to get a poll. We're talking about it. And so that's happening. The consumer confidence reports have been mailed out, and they appear to have been received. Everybody get their TCRs? All right, good. Grandpa's Community Non-Wind Project, we just kind of got an update. I think they took the Castleton Select Board up there on the hill. Really, all there is to that is that the Grandpa's Knob Community Wind Project group are still kind of moving forward with trying to acquire permits and performing studies. So, and then you can find more details on their website if you're interested. NIMRIC training. See you, Don. Thanks for your help.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'm upset. NIMRIC training on delinquency reports. So this is actually really neat. NIMRIC handles delinquencies very well. The goal, so I received training, and the goal is to have all the agreements entered in there, so when the new assistant takes over, she can run reports, and those reports can only, so you can actually run notification letters straight out of NIMRIC. Yeah, it's pretty neat. So, and what you can do is you can click a click box that says, do not include agreements on my report. So you won't get any of the agreements. So if anyone's delinquent, it'll just show you who's delinquent, and you can print off the, it just does it for you. It's got their address and name and dates and all the state statute stuff required. So the goal is to be able to hand that over to the assistant really easily. All the information's there. The BCDP comments and response for 52 and 56 Main Street, you have in your packets the response letter to the state's request for clarification to our application. the town did a really good job of showing the need for the project and how it correlated with past plans. That also goes to show how important planning is, because I was able to draft that and make it competitive because we've got the Proctor Future Report and we've got a good 2020 municipal plan, we've got a prosperity plan. Tying all that into the application is really helpful. And if you read some of those responses, you'll also see that Zion Grower seems to be really motivated to start, and actually maybe starting production here before the I building.
Oh.
So, kind of cool news. This was discussed at our last meeting. I spoke to the listing agent about securing the Marble Office building, and as you can see, the windows are shut. They installed new locks, and there's a sign that says there's surveillance. So
It's not on the market anymore.
it's not on the market anymore.
Yeah, it's a-
It came down the same weekend that they shut everything up.
They shut the windows and took out.
Yeah. I was actually here when they were doing it. It was a Sunday, and I came in to a bike ride and check on, and kind of catch up from COVID. And I tried to kind of hope and find out what was going to happen to it, but I don't think they really had a plan there. We haven't talked about this for a while, but we do have a stormwater master plan in the works, and RFP has been sent out, and that's included in your packets, and we should get that back in July. And I think it would be good for a select board member to be on that review committee with me. So when it comes back, I'll let you know. And the conservation district is kind of running the efforts on this, so that's our point of contact. It's kind of nice, I'm just doing a bunch of review work for it. So they have me review it and they send stuff out. Oh, so solicitation for diesel and heating oil bids. I put this on hold, and from what I've heard, many localities are. I don't know if we want to get a bid right now. No.
They say end of July, 1st of August.
Yeah.
That's when everyone's going out to bid.
I don't think you want to wait too long, because I don't
No.
foresee it coming down.
Did you call anyone? Because when I called my people, they said end of July, 1st of August. I know that's what we're doing with other organizations as well. So, and people say you definitely want to lock in this year.
Yeah.
Because the numbers that they're saying are pretty scary.
Yeah.
And I think if you're locking in, to try to have a clause in there so that if all of a sudden prices did go down, that you're not held back.
Historically, most places around here that we've locked in with,
Don't do it.
yeah, they give you, if you lock in, like last year, like I locked in at 250, but if it was 243 when they delivered it, that's what they did.
Yeah. Lock in. Yeah, I just kind of want to make everybody aware, just so we were getting, I didn't want anybody to get nervous about us not having that done yet, especially with the fiscal year coming up. And I think it was done pretty late when I came on board. So. Oh, and then advertisement for assistant town clerk and treasurer, assistant to the town manager. Notices were sent to both the Brandon reporter, and I also put them in the Herald because it's pretty important that we fill. The advertising's online, our website, and if I don't get anything back by the end of the fiscal year, I'll post it on Indeed for a little while and watch that. Those costs, they can be expensive.
You can set it up so if you reject them within 48 hours, they won't charge you for those.
Reject the applicant? I'll be honest, I just don't. It's something Stan had set up, and maybe I need to start my own account.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really know how to change how we had it.
Right.
So if you reject them, if they put in an application, you reject it for 48 hours.
They won't charge you for those. Otherwise, they'll charge you for everybody, and you'll get a lot of people who have no
From all over.
experience or inclination with what you're applying for.
Okay.
Even if you do filters, it still doesn't work. I've done it, and
Yeah.
it still doesn't work.
Yeah, it wasn't very user friendly when I was doing it. I mainly just got like shocked when I saw that I had a bill come out. I really didn't understand why.
Right, and it's hard, like, because lots of times you want to just get, like, say if they're pouring in, you don't have time to review everyone within 48 hours, so you kind of save them all, but then it's like 48 hours is gone, and then, well, I just bought those.
So they're not charging it for just having it up there.
They charge you by the per fly.
Okay. All right. I'll look into that when I get back then. Maybe just go ahead and get up there then. And check it every day.
They'll notify you.
Yeah. And then we had it, oh, they'll probably email me.
You get an email saying.
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. Complaint about four-wheelers and dirt bikes on Pleasant Street in Beaver Pond. I did speak to Sheriff Fox about prioritizing patrols along Beaver Pond and Pleasant Street during the weekends. Yeah, well, that's when most of the activity was, and that's what they always ask me, you know. You know, what do they look like? You know, like I spoke to a resident last week about it, and he couldn't give me a description of the vehicle and couldn't give me, but he did know that they were young. So I was like,
Thanks.
so.
So are they just using it as a cut through to get to the woods, to get to the trails?
You know, I don't know. And that's why I always encourage them to call the sheriff because they've got way more information than I can provide. But
Right.
all I got from the people that complained was that, or the concerned citizens, was that they were coming through mainly on the weekends, and
they're coming down Beaver Pond Road itself, down the hill, around the curve, down the straightaway to Florence Road. And they go to the right some, I don't know if they're going left, because it says road closed, but I don't know. Most of them are not using the trail behind the house, which is another issue. Isn't that supposed to be just for snowmobiles? A vast trail. At any rate, they're speeding.
I think from Beaver Pond all the way up to Florence, four-wheelers going there all the time. From Beaver Pond all the way up to Florence on the old, like, railroad trip, like those, the four-wheelers on there.
I don't know what they used to do or whatever, we thought that it was not that vast, it's only for snow. We don't know what Anya has said, is it only for vast? Or is it for four-wheelers or anybody who wants
I've
to
seen
go
more
for a
four-wheelers
hike?
on that trail than snow.
Yeah.
And they cut down my street all the time, like the road, to get to a trail.
They're causing damage down at the Beaver Pond, that area down there. They're doing donuts down there and shooting rocks everywhere. Looks
Down
like,
by the
yeah, just like making
Parking
it.
area.
Yeah. And then where they're popping it off the ledge and everything, it's just like, I don't know, doesn't seem like it.
If they just stayed on the vast trail, four-wheelers or ATVs, whatever they are, I don't care. It's when they're in the road and they're unlicensed and they're speeding that's a problem. Following two pickup trucks with giant pipes and noisy.
Well, does Rutland County Sheriff's Department say they received multiple complaints from residents in that area?
no.
Well, that seems problematic then.
Yep. See, I think if we're supposed to call the sheriff's department, for citizens, then I'll go out there and start telling everybody, if we're saying we're calling it, if you want something done, call the sheriff's
Oh,
department.
yeah. Because they'll get tired of doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, squeaky wheel.
We can discuss it, but none of us have the power to change it or stop it. But I did wonder, if you could speak to the sheriff's department, if you could make that suggestion to use the Beaver Pond Dam Road, maybe they'd catch some. I mean, it really doesn't do any good. If we ask them, they increase their patrols, they sit at the pull-offs, and these guys can see them clear as day. So they're good fellows and don't act good. I like to catch them. So, just my thought.
And then, actually, Sheriff Fox did call me after that and asked me what he was surprised that we put our sheriff's reports online because he thought that gave a little bit too much detail to criminals on when they might be clocking in and clocking out. But I told them it's been there forever, and then the other point to it is it's public knowledge anyway, it shows up on your desks, so I didn't plan on stopping putting it on the website.
They're supposed to be rotating anyway.
They're just gonna have to be more random.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Any thoughts on that or not?
As far as being online,
Yeah, being on the website, sheriff's reports.
I don't know if anybody else does it. I mean, if people want it, they can always contact you.
Well, it's in the Brandon Reporter for Brandon and Pittsburgh and places like that, they publish it. So you pick up the reporter, it'll say daily log,
Yeah,
this is what happens, so. I mean, they're supposed to not be, it's supposed to be random throughout the day anyway, so
Right.
what information are you giving to criminals 2 weeks old?
I know, come on.
I mean, that seems a
it's
little.
hard to read them anyway and know what they're really doing.
Yeah. That seems a little goofy for the sheriff's department.
If I'm not mistaken, that information used to be available on the sheriff's website. So when I first started, there was supposed to be this whole database that was going to be
Maybe we could take it down for a discount.
Slash your contract.
Yeah.
Alright.
All right, we got 2 more things here. We had an assessor from VLCT come, and John and I gave him a tour of all the different facilities. And then we have changes to our grand list. I've included just the sheet of the changes to the grand list in your packets.
Yes.
Except for some of the second
Just the sheet.
Can you clarify VLCT?
Oh, I'm sorry, Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns.
Okay.
And, yeah, so the grand list is changing. The 2021 grand list total was $125,122. And the 2022 grand list total is $127,491.
I know it's more than 120.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna be in a world of trouble.
So
I'm used to reading such big numbers. Small town, yes.
Deflation.
Not used to reading big numbers like that. Oh, and that concludes my manager's report.
Alright. Bills, everybody signed the bill? Oh, I don't think I did.
That's about it.
Oh, yeah, I gave it to you. Okay, forget it. Sheriff's report. Any questions or comments? All right, the step 3 loan approval for Willow Sanitary Sewer Project.
Now, I asked about this because I thought it was kind of strange you were signing a loan agreement halfway through the project.
Right.
The reason for this is the state doesn't want you to execute a loan agreement until you get through with the planning and design phase, because what happens if the project never goes into construction and you haven't executed loan agreement?
Right, okay.
So that was the reason behind it.
Okay. All right. So is there a motion to approve the loan agreement RF 1241-3.0 that is not to exceed $1,475,000?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And we'll need signatures on that. Next is the renewal of law enforcement contract. Which I think is increased because of fuel, primarily,
And
correct?
insurance is what you said. Fuel and insurance.
Motion to approve.
All right.
See, it was that much. Don't have any choice.
So there's I'm just gonna read the motion.
Sure.
The motion to accept the terms of the fiscal 23 law enforcement contract with Rutland County Sheriff's Office, under which an annual service fee will be paid totaling $87,360. Bruce made a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question about the contract and how it reads?
Sure.
That's contradictory from the first paragraph. So it says that, a deputy should be on duty at all times, and then it talks about the deputy, having leave or training days, and if we want another deputy, that one will be assigned an additional $42 per hour. Then in number 3, it says, the total number of patrol hours may not exceed 2,080. So if you take 52 weeks, which we're signing a contract for, and divide that in at 40, technically we should have coverage whether they're at training or not, the way the contract reads. Because it says patrol coverage, it doesn't say if they're on vacation or training. Just the thought that what they think it says, I don't believe that it does.
That's kind of a weird clause.
So we're
It
paying,
actually is new from last year's
Right,
as
so
well,
it's
because I reviewed it.
We're paying for him to go to training, but we're also paying for somebody to cover for him.
Right, but if you read in 3, that's not what 3 says. 3 says that we're supposed to have 2,080 hours for the life of the contract, right? Not to exceed that. Can we say 40 hours per week, 52 weeks a year? That means that we should have coverage no matter what they're doing during that week. Whether they're at training or on leave, by virtue of this, doesn't it say that we should still have coverage?
I don't recall ever seeing a sheriff's 2-week report where, we didn't have coverage.
We did have, if you go back and look, where they were at training and we didn't have people here for different days. Actually, we had functions in town and we didn't have a deputy because they were at training.
And I don't ever remember seeing that on one of the reports.
So we just went without them when they were in training last time. I think it's just
I've
worded
never
weird.
seen a report where they didn't put in 80 hours. Have you?
No, but I think they're saying we get 80 hours, but I don't get the part of why we're paying additional to.
No, they're saying if you want to have someone, whether at training, you'd have to pay an additional $42. But we have had instances here where someone is at training and we have not had coverage for that day. So, I'm just saying, it reads a little oddly, and maybe they make up the 40 hours someplace else, or that time someplace else, but it's a little contradictory in how it's written. Maybe they'll come up with verbiage for them.
I think, yeah, I mean, I guess you kind of get in the weeds with it. It's saying that you'll get this many patrol, 80 hours of patrol, but maybe they're using the word patrol loosely.
Well, they're specific when they say leave or training, so. It's their contract, it just seems like it's a little loose.
Let's put off sending this to Lincoln.
Yeah, we got time.
So are we at, we're asking Michael to clarify this.
Right.
Because I think the last sentence in paragraph 3, all required court appearances annually with minimum training obligations shall be included in the approved schedule, which will not occur overtime. I'm wondering if they're counting those hours in the 2080, which is poorly worded because they patrol hours, but it would be good to have Sheriff Fox let us know.
Well, to me, it's almost to read like if we're guaranteed 2,080 hours, right? And if someone's on leave or in training, it doesn't matter because we're still being covered for those 40 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
This is part of the contract.
So let's just have the sheriff clarify, or somebody from the sheriff.
Extra minutes, $42 an hour.
You should also ask them about, in paragraph 2 at the bottom, if you elect to have an officer while your assigned officer is on leave or training, we have to pay 42. So you're paying for that original officer to go to training or vacation or whatever, and you're paying for the substitute.
Only if you choose to have
Yeah,
some.
only if you
Right.
choose.
Well, it is saying that
You
the
want
total,
40 hours.
it is saying the total numbers of patrol hours may not exceed 2080.
Right.
You know, see.
So they're not trying to achieve 2080, they're just saying it won't go over 2080.
Right, but you want to get at your 2080. That's what we're paying for. You don't want to be at 1940, that's not what you're I just, maybe why they put it in there, would be curious. It used to be when Sheriff Bernard came and he changed the contract, he would say, it would be bold and it would say, this is a new addition to the contract this year. Or this year we've added, subset A because of this, so.
I'll just invite the sheriff to the next meeting, I probably should have done that anyway.
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to be difficult, but it is an $87,000 contract. I mean, I know we don't have any other choice.
I feel like the only clarification I see is we get 2,080 hours.
20,000.
Sure, you're all done. We get 2,080 hours, we pay for that.
Yeah.
If someone's on leave and we want to go above that because of their leave, then we pay additional. Otherwise, it's a wash. It's like they just send someone in their place. You know, that's what's confusing to me.
I just want to point out that you increased them by like 200%. He cut a grand this one.
Sure, equal, we're
Almost $1 million,
balanced.
so.
Yeah, we balanced.
Some crazy math.
Alright.
I'll be honest, I know that it did change from last year. I mean, this is not the same language as last year, but it
Right.
didn't trigger in my mind to get too muddy, but.
So,
Question?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that you did renewal the contract. You voted to renew the contract, or you're
We're not,
you're on hold. You're on hold.
yeah, we're not. We're
You're on
sending a
hold.
motion to renew.
Okay.
Pending his clarification.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else on that? 2023 grants and aid agreement. So Proctor's eligible for $11,000. Is there a motion to sign the letter of intent to participate in the fiscal 23 municipal roads grant in aid program?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Town health officer vacancy.
Well, it's not really vacant, is it?
Now, but I'd like it to be, from my perspective. So, I'm the health officer until we get somebody, because the chair of the select board has to take over the position, and the state actually appoints you. So they've appointed me for 3 years.
Congratulations.
So I'm on you
You
here.
bring your badge again?
I do wear my badge.
What does the town health officer do? What are your responsibilities?
Please help you.
It's mostly, honestly,
Exercise, eat right.
investigating dogfights.
That's what I thought.
But there's other things too, but the majority of what, at least during the period that my mom was a health officer, is dogfights.
Well, Judy and I went on a call 3 weeks ago,
Oh, yeah, for asbestos.
asbestos siding,
Oh,
so.
I don't remember getting a check in the mail for that one.
Training.
town car?
Yeah, in training. So if you hear of anybody who's interested, send them my way.
Oh, yeah, Gail's reports and stuff are downstairs too, so whoever does end up wanting to take the position, they're there.
There's nothing pending, right?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Just let me know if something comes in.
And then you get paid, you should share that.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe I'll keep it.
It's
I think
$250.
it's $250
I
a year.
would lose my mind though.
Yeah, okay. I'll put you in a different tax bracket. I don't like that.
Oh, no.
Is there anything else to discuss? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion, or meeting is adjourned.